Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. I'm so glad to have you here this week. We're going to have a great time in our episode as we share and find new ways to use what we call emotional intelligence and working with other people, what it means to do it, how the strategies and techniques that we have available for you will help improve not just your emotional intelligence, but the results that you get from your networking efforts and the things that you want to try to accomplish. I'm hoping that you all will get a lot out of today's episode. We're going to take a few minutes before we get started formally to make sure everybody is in the room who wants to get in the room. So it's going to take a minute. As you come into the room and as you come into on the live stream, I love it if you would do me a favor and make sure that you put your name, your email address, your contact information, anything you want others to know about your business. Go ahead and put that information in the chat. At minimum, tell me who you are, where you're coming from. If you know me, tell me where you met me. I like to get some discussion going and make sure that we have lots of engagement. The more engagement we have, the better the show. The better the show, the more people will attend and share and appreciate it. And I'm hoping that as we move this thing forward, we're coming through COVID-19. We might move into, at some future date, into more of a hybrid show where we're doing partially live and partially recorded. But I mean live, I mean in studio with guests, with people around me. Usually I started this program years ago at the coffee shop, the local coffee shop, my local Panera Bread. And we'd have easily 20, 30 entrepreneurs, around every Friday. And now that we've gone into the online presence, we have an opportunity to extend that to a larger audience, to a larger extent. And it's just a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that you all will enjoy this and give me as much feedback as possible. Those of you who watch it live or those of you who watch the recorded version, don't feel like because you're watching the recorded version, you can't interact. The chat's still going to be open, whether you're watching it on Facebook or you're watching it on YouTube. And I still respond to those. And by the way, if you want to go and get any back episodes, you definitely can do that. I'm going to share to the best of my ability, what I've had going on YouTube and how you can use it to see all of the former episodes we've done. Oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here on YouTube. Okay, so let me find my channel. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, and I'll show you the channel, and then you guys can look at all the back episodes of Coffee Tea, You and Me that you want. And it's right here on YouTube. If you want to see the back channel information, and it's populated now on both YouTube and Facebook, so you can just hit that link and you can watch any of the previous shows. We've been doing this now. I think we celebrated our annual anniversary real early in April, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun knowing that we've been doing this, and we'll be coming up on my birthday here in a couple of days, so it's going to be a pretty good opportunity for us to play and do some good things. I want to know, by the way, if you're coming in, if there's any topics in the future that you think is important to cover in your business, in your personal life, whatever it is that you like to talk about, would like to cover. I'd love to get your suggestions, because taking feedback from the audience is probably the best way I could think of to build something that's relevant for the people who listen and people who come to share with the show. And again, like I said earlier, even if you're watching a recorded episode of the program, feel free to put your information in the chat and make sure that we know what we need to know in order to get here. All right. So again, if you're visiting from Facebook or YouTube, do me a favor in the chat, put your information, where you are, where you're coming from, maybe how you know me. If you have a business that you'd like to promote, anything you'd like to promote, how do we find you, what websites you want to use, go ahead and put that in the chat, because it helps us to, one, give you special recognition and give you a shout out that you absolutely deserve, and two, to help us. I see my girl Nancy's out there. She's coming to us, I think, from Facebook today. So definitely, Nancy, if you got some information that you'd like to share with people, go ahead and put it in the chat. I'm going to continue to ask. I want to be a really, really engaging session, so I'm going to ask a lot of deep questions, and feel free to post any information you want to post, answer the questions. Some of the questions are going to be hypothetical. Some of the questions are going to be really real. So I love for as much engagement as you could possibly give. It would really mean a lot to me to, make sure that we have an active and engaged audience to the best of our ability. So again, go ahead and put your name in the chat and where you're coming from right now. And if there's something that you want to talk about or discuss when it comes to dealing with emotional intelligence, and we're going to define that for you during the program, and anything else, let me know and we will get on it. Any question you have during the discussion, any feedback you have during the discussion, again, interact with the chat box. And I will try to recognize as much as possible anything that you say that I think is relevant to the discussion and that moves the discussion forward. It's really important to me that, we're not just talking about, I'm not just a talking head, that I have some engaging content and some things that work for whoever's in the audience, whether you're listening live or you're recording. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started here in a couple seconds. I got a quick little thing I want to share with you. I love this thing. This is my buddy David created this for me. Check it out. And welcome back to Coffee Tea, You and Me with Coach Powell. This is a program that I've been doing now for more than 20 years, just helping entrepreneurs and business leaders, sales professionals of all types, really figure out how to network more intelligently, how to do better with their business, how to promote themselves, how to create better opportunities and advantages for themselves. And I love doing it. As a coach, I don't get a chance to share as much as I often like to with people. And this is the time sort of I set aside every single week, and I've been doing this for quite a while now. I set aside every single week to literally share with entrepreneurs and business leaders to the best of my ability. Anything that I know, anything that I have, I leave nothing on the table. I hold nothing back. And so if there's questions or thoughts or anything, I'd love to engage with you, create opportunities with you, share opportunities with you and it doesn't matter where you are or where you're coming from. If you're watching this via recording, if you're watching this live, feel free to participate in the chat. I try to be as responsive as I possibly can to all questions and everything. So definitely, tell me who you are, where you're coming from, what part of the country you're in. If you're out of town, and this is the DMV area, so out of town for us. I'm sorry, I should clear that up. This is the DC metropolitan, Maryland, and Virginia area. So if you are coming from outside the area or whatever, definitely put your name and where you're coming from in the chat so we can give you a special recognition. I see my friends are out there right now. I see Nancy's out there. So good to see you, Nancy. I really love that you participate and hang in there with me. I know it's been some challenging, and I'm hoping that this is good for you, good for your soul, and help you to feel connected, because I know how disconnected it is to feel, and that's just being an entrepreneur, period. But when you're thinking about, working in isolation like we all have to do now with COVID-19, it's very, very difficult. I see my boy Scott's out there too. So good to see you, Scott. Thank you so much for participating. You're one of my favorites, obviously, both you and Nancy. And if you all have any questions along the way as we have this discussion today, I'm gonna depend on you to help me kind of guide through and lead this, because I don't have a big set of lecture notes that I'm going to be working from today. I'm just going to be talking basically from my experience about how you use emotional intelligence within your networking strategy, within your business building strategy, within your communication and relationship building strategy. How do you do it? What do you need to think about? And what needs to happen? First of all, I got to share with you a little bit of what emotional intelligence is all about. Emotional intelligence is literally your ability to understand and control your emotions and to understand others' emotions and be able to help them control their emotions. And that's my definition of emotion. It's a short definition of emotional intelligence, right? Being able to, the ability to control your emotions, understand your emotions, know your emotions, control your emotions, and understand the emotions of others and help them control their emotions. Why would you want to control your emotions? In terms of reactions, in terms of responsibilities and respect that you may share for other people. First of all, you need to understand a couple things about just how the brain functions. Every new stimulus that comes into your brain, whether it's touch, tactical, feel, whether it's a friend or associate, anything new that comes into your sensory perception, it doesn't matter how you perceive it. Every new situation causes your brain to assess. It causes your brain to assess, is this dangerous? Is this person dangerous? Is this thought dangerous? Is this idea dangerous? Is this new thing that I'm seeing, smelling, tasting, is it dangerous? If it is dangerous, now what do I do? How do I respond? The typical response to something that one considers dangerous, stressful, or whatever is fight, flight, or freeze, meaning your brain tells you to react in a way to protect and preserve your life, right? And so whenever we're experiencing threats, we're in threat state. And you can go ahead and Google that. There's a whole lot of research on threat state and how you handle threat state. Whenever we perceive a threat, then we immediately go into fight, flight, or freeze. And if that is not a real threat, if it's not a material threat, if it doesn't actually exist, it's only a figment of our imagination, then it's easy for us to stay in a position of trauma. It's easy for us to stay in a position where we're dealing with issues that are related to fear, that are related to undue unrest and assault. And it's easy, quite frankly, for even one negative experience on top of all the whole negative experience of life to create PTSD in human beings. Now, all of that could be avoided with what we're going to share with you today about emotional intelligence and how you deal with it, right? And how you experience and allow yourself to experience certain stimulus and what you do about them. And that's all. I love this quote from Dr. Covey, who wrote this in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He wrote that in between a stimulus and a response is your ability to control. It is your ability to respond, to make a controlled, consistent, well thought out response to whatever stimulus. That's a choice. And he says that it's a choice. And so how do you get control of your emotions so that your lizard brain, so we know about, whether that wants to go freeze, fight, or flight, how do we get control of that so that your higher level thinking, your cerebral cortex, and the other parts of your brain can then go, okay, let's just really look at this and go, okay, what is this? Is this really dangerous? If it's really dangerous, then okay, I should run. I should fight. I should, take a look at it and go a little deeper, right? And that makes sense for me to have that. My life is in threat state. I'm being threatened. But if it's not life-threatening, then you should be able to kick that from your lizard brain up into your higher brain, and you should be able to think higher about the situation. And then, that's what Michelle Obama would always say, when they go low, we go high, meaning when people are coming at you with a lot of negativity or a lot of things that are taking you in the wrong direction, you get to choose, like Dr. Covey said, to go high. And so your ability to handle that process and to do that is what we call EQ, or emotional intelligence. When people talk about EQ, they're always talking about that. They're always talking about your ability to control yourself and your ability to understand how others think and feel and do things and respond in ways that help them control themselves. Does that make sense? I hope everybody gets that. And so that's what we're going to talk about, because anytime you are interacting with others, even when you're interacting with yourself, emotional intelligence is at play. How you want to deal with and control your emotions is at play. And there are literally 5 levels of emotional intelligence or 5 aspects of emotional intelligence that you really have to get your mind around in order to do well with these. So I'm going to read these to you. Then I'm going to read them to you again and describe each one of them. And then I'm going to read them to you again in list form, because I want you to just get this embedded in your brain. And if somebody could do me a favor and write them down in the chat, 1 through 5, here's the list. 1, self-awareness. 2, self-management. 3, motivation. 4, empathy. And 5, social skills. These are the 4 areas of emotional intelligence that Dr. Danny Goleman describes in his book, Emotional Intelligence. And he was one of the premier individuals that helped expose this thought of emotional intelligence. I remember I saw him on the Oprah show. I think it was in the 80s sometime. And this is before he had any gray in his hair. And I definitely didn't have any in mine. And it was funny that he was talking about it because he's talked about it over and over and over again for several years. And he's always on some show or some TV. So if you're looking at like Danny Goleman, looking for emotional intelligence, a lot of people have taken his work and moved it to a higher level. But Dr. Covey was talking about EQ way before Danny Goleman. Danny Goleman actually made it a formal psychological study. And because so the term has existed for a long time. Dr. Goleman is not the pioneer of emotional intelligence. He is he's not the discoverer of emotional intelligence, but he is a pioneer in the field of psychology, actually dealing with emotional intelligence and doing the research about how it works and how it should work and where it should go and all that kind of good stuff. So having said that, we're going to read that list again. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, self-management. Number 3, motivation. Number 4, empathy. And number 5, social skills. So let's talk about what these things mean. Number 1, self-awareness. When you are self-aware, you can literally assess your own skills and abilities, your own emotional intelligence, and understand and know what you are capable of. You can do it. You can provide enough self-assessment and accurate self-assessment to understand and know who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you're capable of. You'll know and be able to say when you need help, because you'll be aware of what's not going well and the fact that it can get better. So therefore, there must be a way to get help. You'll also be able to know and understand what your emotional triggers are. What are the things that set you off? What are the things that take you into neurological destruction? So I'm going to use that word, and I'll mean it in a way that it's pathological, but when you're no longer in control, when you're no longer in a situation where you can say to yourself, don't be afraid, and listen to yourself, and then actually change the direction of your threat state, just by either reframing the situation or taking the time to breathe and get control of your feelings and emotions, and then make a considered active response. Okay, so self-awareness. Let's talk about this. Let's go in deep. Well, I'm gonna read self-management first. I'm gonna tell you what self-management is. Now, self-management, different from self-awareness, is not just being aware of how you're feeling and what they may mean and what you may be able to do about it. Self-awareness has to do with being able to control your outbursts, being able to calmly discuss whatever disagreement that you may have with somebody else, being able to avoid activities and thoughts that undermine you, your self-concept, your belief in yourself, and so on and so forth. And so it's more than just being aware of what your feelings are. It is now being able to control and manipulate your feelings in such a way that's healthy and holistic for you, that help you move forward and grow. And this is a skill, this is a talent, this is an ability, just like IQ or anything else. And you're not just born with it, it can be developed. That's key to this understanding of all this emotional intelligence stuff we're going to be talking about. It can be developed. It doesn't mean you're stuck with where you are, where your upbringing allows you to be, your cultural baggage, whatever it is, can be changed. The fifth level of emotional intelligence, or the fifth area of most emotional intelligence, I think is very, very important, is this area of motivation. Motivation is literally more than just the drive to get it done. It's more than the things that we do for incentives, right? We do it for money, we do it for power, we do it for some type of accolades, or we're trying to achieve, right? That's motivation is not that in terms of what Dr. Goldman was talking about with emotional intelligence. And motivation is in the mind of, when you're talking about emotional intelligence, you're talking about what is it that you're driven to do so well, so naturally, that you would do it without incentive. You would do it if nobody was watching. You'd do it if nobody even cared about it, because you're internally motivated. You have the drive from inside to move something forward. What is it that you would do to move the thing forward? Number 4 is empathy. When we talk about empathy, it's about literally the skill of reading the emotions of others. It's about your ability to understand how someone else might feel about a certain stimulus, whether you provide that stimulus or that stimulus comes from somewhere else. Understanding how they might feel and helping them to deal with those feelings in a way that's healthy for them. If you have that empathy, it's not just I feel for you. That's sympathy. But I feel for you in a way that allows me to understand and help you. I can help you figure out how to move out of whatever you're feeling into another level of feeling, so that you can make better, clearer decisions, so that you can grow, and so that you can move yourself forward. Empathy is the critical skill of emotional intelligence, I would say. And the next level of emotional intelligence we would call social skills. Now, social skills really is about, I say, like I like to think about it as the back and forth empathy. If I'm able to respond to you in a way that shows to you that I understand you, then you can feel safe, you can feel comforted. In fact, you can feel respected, you can feel hopeful, you can feel like your abilities and your things and your talent and the things you bring to the table mean something. I always say this: people want to feel like whatever they're doing, whoever they are, is meaningful, is significant, it's relevant. And if my social skills are such that I can look into another person and be able to see what their gifts are, what their talents are, what their abilities are, and help them figure out ways to move those skills and those talents forward, then I'm helping them not just with reaching a goal, I'm helping them be a better person. I'm helping them be more secure in their thoughts and in their person, and vice versa. And so if I'm able to receive that from other people and allow them to see the goodness in me and help me bring that out, then again, I'm able to feel secure, I'm able to feel safe, I'm able to move through and I'm able to take more risks, maybe that I wouldn't have taken had I not known that this was a safe environment to play in, and all those things. That's about social skills, right? It's about being able to do that. So how does all of this apply to networking? Well, now when we get down to, we gotta really define what networking is and how all of this really works together. And then for me, and the Roundtable, which is an organization that I support and I love, I am one of the founders of the Roundtable, and I am the actual education coordinator and director for the organization, because it's my job to make sure we have great content that teaches our members how to do what they did not learn in school, which is how to effectively build and maintain and grow professional relationships. This is key, because we now know that if you cannot grow professional relationships, your growth and development will absolutely be stalled. Doesn't matter your knowledge, your skills, your abilities are important and they are great. However, if no one knows you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities, you're kind of stuck. And if no one who is important and relevant in terms of being able to support your knowledge and the growth of your knowledge, skills, and abilities with their time, talent, and treasure, then you're kind of stuck. You're kind of stuck in if the longer you stay stuck without the right people being able to understand who you are, what you bring to the table, the harder it is for you to recover and come back. Because again, we're dealing with synapses in the brain and your neural responses. But the longer you stay stuck in a situation, the more you become compliant and complacent with the situation. And because you get used to just being where you are. And if where you are is downtrodden and oppressed and obligatory, and you feel put upon, and you do that over and over, year after year after year after year, it becomes more difficult because you find safety in that negative space. I don't want to get into a whole bunch of psychobabble, but that's how the brain functions. And if you want to create a healthier brain, then you've got to open up to new ideas, new thoughts, new people, right, who are going to pour into you, hopefully positive energy, positive interaction, positive developmental opportunities where you can see yourself being better than you are right now because of, with, and through these people. You're able to build relationships with them and grow those relationships with them so they're willing to share their resources. So we define networking in the Roundtable as networking is the art and science of creating leverage through win-win relationships. I say it again, networking is the art and science of creating and leveraging win-win relationships. The art and science of creating and leveraging win-win relationships to create greater opportunities, right? So it's very, very important. And it takes 2 people, then 3 people, then 4 people, then 5 people, then 10, then 12. It takes a collective, a hive, so to speak, a tribe, if you will, of people who are all working together to help create common goals, common objectives, while individuals still experience relevance, meaning, and significance, right? Okay, my nose is itching. I don't know why that is. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into self-awareness. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. What do you think happens when a self-aware person bumps into another self-aware person, say at a networking function or in a conference or whatever? What do you think happens? Is this a good thing or it's a bad thing? If you think it's a good thing, just write in the chat good thing. If you think it's a bad thing, just write in the chat bad thing. And I just want you to just kind of ruminate, think about that. 2 very, very self-aware people meet each other. What do you think? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And I love Nancy's response right off the bat. Each one tries to get the other one talking, right? And she's right about that, because self-aware people are generally interested in others. They're generally interested in how others are become aware. They're generally interested in how because they don't need to discover themselves, and they don't even need to be discovered. They're already aware of themselves. They're already happy with who they are, their self-concept, they're self-aware, they understand who they are, they're confident in who they are, And there's no need to jump all up and down and get excited about that, because they're already there. They already have a high level of self-esteem, a high level of self-concept, high level of self-awareness, right? So 9 times out of 10, that person is going to be the person who's going to be more interested in you. And like Nancy said, these people are going to be, they're okay with themselves. They're not really interested in themselves. They want to talk to each other about each other, and they're going to have problems. They're going to butt heads. They're going to butt heads, and each one's going to be going, well, what about you? And what about you? And what about you? And what about you? And so therefore, it's not necessarily going to be a good thing. I asked you a question, a trick question. And Nancy, of course, she's brilliant. She got the trick right off the bat. Because people who are both at a same level of self-awareness, and again, these are levels of emotional intelligence, right? It's not like one level and that's it. You either are or you're not emotional intelligence. It's the depth of that, so you have to be very careful, people who are very, very self-aware, because they sometimes have to force themselves to turn that off and actually allow others to get to know them. And they literally have a lot of control over that. So it's very difficult for them sometimes. And and again, when you bump into people and you realize that, wow, it's not that they're trying to evade your question or they're trying to avoid answering what you're asking them or anything like that. It's that they're not interested in that. They already understand all that, and they're trying to figure out who you are. And you not answering their questions, then they're not trying to evade the questions. They're just that they're not interested in that. So it's very, very important. But self-awareness is key to helping people and understanding how their self-awareness, I guess, is manifest in how they communicate is key to emotional intelligence. Now on the opposite side, if you meet two people come together who are totally oblivious and unaware of who they are, what they can bring to the table, then the conversation can go nowhere other than the superficial conversation, which means you'll be stuck talking about the weather or the colors you wore or what the event is like and how the food is. And there's be nothing there to really stimulate a higher level of relationship, because you're going to keep the conversation on the surface. You're not going to go deep. You're not going to get into things that allow you to show empathy. You're not going to get into ideas and concepts that allow you to share those social skills we talked about earlier, right? So you're going to stay right on the surface level, and what color shoes you have, what brand of clothes you're wearing, what kind of stuff is. And again, that's not good stuff to create a relationship. It might be creating attraction momentarily, or I like that I like that pin you have, or I like that the way you wear your hair, or I like whatever. You might create some temporary attraction, but quickly, you get stuck in the superficial, and you won't be able to move any relationship, professional or personal, forward, because there's nothing there's nothing to talk to. This person is an inch deep is something that my parents taught me, and this person doesn't have a depth of innate concept of themselves and what they can bring to the table and who they are, and so they can't even share it. They can't ever articulate it. So the key here is, and if you get what I'm putting down, is the key is to be able to not just know who you are, but be very good at expressing to others who you are, so they can see the authentic truth of your character, whatever wisdom you have, whatever you'd like to share in life, in like, so you can be, and you have no fear in sharing that, because it's just authentically who you are. Now, people who have the kind of confidence that I'm talking about just their own basic innate character, we read as people who are competent. A person who's confident knows who they are, knows what their abilities are, know what they can bring to the table, knows what they can contribute, and is willing to and can articulate that exceptionally well, is a person you trust almost immediately, because they have shared with you exactly what you need to do to get on board with them, to have them help you with something, do whatever needs to happen. You got some ideas about what you can go forward with because their initial description of what it is. So a self-aware person that's articulate about who they are and what they are, if you ask them, well, what do you do? They're going to answer that question. The question of, I'm sorry, what is it that you do? You know, that was a good excuse. That was a good excuse to take a mug, a shot from my personal mug. See my personal mug? Also, it's got my fraternity on there and some other good sayings and stuff like that. This is from my buddy Bazil. I'm really happy about it. I love this. This is the gift. Anybody wants to give me a special gift, a personalized coffee mug? Yes, indeedy. It's the first one I've ever gotten in my entire life, so I love it. Anyhow, what I was saying is, if you get stuck in you talking to someone who doesn't have the ability to articulate their gifts and their skills and their talents, because again, stuck in the superficial, then it's very hard to have a meaningful conversation with that person. It's very hard. And so your ability to not just be emotionally intelligent and be self-aware about yourself, but to then articulate that is key to moving the relationship forward. If you can't do it, then again, the relationship suffers, and so does, you know, the opportunity for whatever relationship might bring to the table. What do you guys think about that? Have you ever experienced someone who immediately saw your gifts and your talents, immediately saw what's special and unique about you, and were able to help you feel amazing because they saw a truth in you, not a fantasy in you, but an absolute authentic truth in you that they can articulate? Because a self-aware person can do what is required to help others understand who they actually are. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And if you've ever experienced that, I promise you, it's probably one of the most delightful conversations you'll ever get into with anybody, whether they've known you for years or they just met you. That experience is something that you'll never forget if you've ever had it. If you ever had somebody just really have enough insight into who you are and help you in terms of help you feel good about who you are, the truth of who you are, not the mask you put on. Because a lot of us, you know, when we present ourselves, especially up front, we want to make a good impression. And that necessarily is not a truthful representation of who we are, right? And so it's very, very important that whatever you say and do, that it's authentic, right? You can back it up, and you'll back it up today, tomorrow, next week, a month from now. You're going to be the same person as you started. My mother used to have this saying, and I'll never forget it. She would say, not begin with the end in mind, but like start it like you're going to finish it. Right? That would be her thoughts about me when I would say, okay, well, I'm going to go take this class. I'm going to go learn this skill. I'm going to go do blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go have this new experience. And she would go, start like you're going to finish. Don't start on a high note and end on a low note. If you're going to start up high, you got to stay up high. So, you know, if you're going to start down low, you know, then you can go higher, but not so much higher that people think you were giving them the an alternative version of yourself up front. Be as authentic and as real as you possibly can all the way through. That's the translation, right? Very, very important. Dr. Covey used to say, begin with the end in mind. If you're going to go into something, you're going to go into a relationship, a new opportunity with someone, begin with the end in mind. Think about what you want the situation, the relationship, the opportunity to look like in the end. You have to visualize that, because there's going to be many distractions, including miscommunication along the way, that drive you away from that end result that you're looking for, that vision that you're looking for. And if you keep that vision in front of you, you're less likely to fall for the distractions of any type that keep you from moving forward towards the vision, right? And we could talk about vision later on if that's what you're interested in. By the way, I said earlier, if any of you are interested in any topics in the future, go ahead and put them in the chat so I know what they're all about and stuff like that. And I will assess and see if there's something I could do and maybe put some stuff together for future lectures and future discussions. Okay, second part of I will say this too before we leave and go into the second emotional intelligence reaction and how that fits into networking. I want to go back to self-awareness for a second and help you understand that you have emotional triggers. You have emotional triggers that will help you lose or gain control. And your ability to understand what those triggers are and what to do about them is key. That's why you want to become self-aware. How you become more self-aware in terms of networking, you have to allow others to give you feedback. You have to ask for and receive feedback from others. And it doesn't mean that that feedback is negative. Even if, it's all just, you have to be able to, again, that's another emotional intelligence skill. You have to be able to control the feedback in terms of how you receive it, and receive it no matter how it comes as positive. Because feedback is just information. It's just data. No matter how somebody delivers it, it's not anything more than information or data. If you use it for other things other than information or data, you are risking your ability to assess the quality of the feedback, because now your emotions are in charge of how you've received that feedback, and you're getting what's called an emotional hijack. And it's back to the lizard brain, the amygdala, the fight, flight, or freeze. And that's not going to get you anywhere. So just be careful of your triggers and know what your triggers are. Again, both positive and negative, because if you can self-trigger more positive thoughts if you know what they are. So I immediately, this is a practice of mine, when I get what most people will perceive as negative feedback, I immediately trigger my brain to go, that information is just data. Now, if I see it as just data, what in this data could I use to help me move forward? Before I respond, and you might see me go, my eyes will go up to the left, and I'll be thinking, okay, I hear you. You're saying this to me. And so therefore, I'm going to, again, receive it as feedback, not positive or negative, just data, just feedback. And then I'm going to assess what I could do with it. And if I need to respond, which I don't always need to respond. In fact, sometimes the best response to feedback, both positive or negative, is thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate that you took the time to share your thoughts with me. That is a response. That is always the right response. That does not mean you're ignoring what the person said. It actually means you're acknowledging what the person gave you in terms of feedback, and you're showing appreciation for them to spend the time to go ahead and do that. But you're also not making any promises that you got to then have a sense or feeling obliged to confirm or deny or do or anything like that. Just, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're making promises that you're not going to keep, or you're not good at keeping, or you're not necessarily going to. You don't want to do that, because that's going to create, again, more of a problem. So people often bring people problems and expect them to do something about it immediately. And the real question to ask yourself is, does this person need is this a problem that needs to be resolved right now? And if so, I like to ask myself, how much time do I have to resolve this? Because I love to give a considered response. I love to give, a meaningful, significant, relevant response. And so oftentimes, if I'm being assaulted and I need time to think, I need to give myself time to think. I need to create the space before I respond, right? In between the stimulus and the response is your opportunity to choose. There's a space between stimulus and response. I need to give myself enough space where I can come back with a response that's going to be meaningful, relevant, and significant. And so if I can't immediately come up with a response, then I need to give myself that space. And you need to, that's a part of the negotiation. That's a part of the intelligent, motivational intelligence and emotional intelligence. I'm sorry, I'm speaking too quickly. It will help you get there. Okay, let's get into self-management. We've already tipped into self-management, right? Self-management is the ability to control your outbursts. It is, being able to calmly discuss a situation that you may have a disagreement with someone in, or avoiding an activity or a situation that may undermine you and your self-concept. How does that work in a networking situation? We often bump into people who don't think the way we think, feel the way we think, believe the way we believe. And, if they don't share our common values, it's very difficult to stay in conversation with people who you vehemently disagree with from a professional or a personal level. And so what people will try to do is avoid those conversations at all, or avoid those people in all circumstances. And in doing so, you're really discounting the opportunity to grow in the relationship. I was having a discussion earlier with a good friend of mine about diversity. And often when organizations approach diversity, they approach diversity as a numbers thing. We're going to have so many women, so many Asians, so many African Americans, so many LGBT people in the community, so many people who are disabled, veterans, whatever. And they trying to fix a systemic problem in our society with numbers. So I don't think I have to go too far to help you all understand that when you treat somebody like they're just a number, and again, they're not meaningful, they're not relevant, they're not significant, you start to then share what we call in this world microaggressions. And you don't mean to. You don't mean to say something off-putting. You don't mean to say something or do something that is that they would perceive as negative. But you literally can't help it because your fundamental basis of accepting them into your world was based on a characteristic of their culture or their physical makeup or what they were thinking. And you could say, and institutions often do this, like we're trying to give them an opportunity, an equal opportunity, a fair chance, but it's already starting with a stigma. Or we've set aside this idea, this notion, just for people who look like you, right? That's not equal or fair right off the bat. It's just an opportunity. So if it would be better if the organization started with diversity, equity, and inclusion in mind, versus then try to fix it on the back end when the good old boy culture is already well established in an organization. And I mean good old boy culture, I don't mean in a stereotypical way. Every culture has its traditions, its beliefs, its thoughts, and the way it does whatever. Every organization has its culture. And that culture over time only gets refined and more locked in, creates more conformity, creates more uniformity, creates more cohesiveness. That's very important. It also creates less creativity, less innovation, and slower responses to anything new. Because as a culture matures, it becomes more locked in and less open, unless it was built to be open in the first place. Now, that's just a lot of my thinking based on a lot of research and a lot of experiences that I've had. But you can't pin me down to the science on this one because I don't have a detailed approach. But I realize that the benefits of diversity are basically creativity and innovation. And when you don't need creativity and innovation, people don't feel like they need to be diverse unless they're told to be. And that is no way to go about trying to be understanding and accepting and, in fact, celebratory of other people. You know, it's got to be, from my point of view, thank you for backing me up on that one, Nancy. It's got to be, and the origin story needs to be the one that says women are important, other cultures are important, other people are important, everybody is important. You can't go everybody's important after the fact. You know, you have to go everybody's important from the beginning and then actually celebrate their differences as much as you celebrate who you are as a collective. And that's very difficult to do because that takes more resources and it takes more attention and it takes more time to take the time. It takes emotional intelligence, self-management to be able to go, I never met someone like you before. I don't know a whole lot. And so before I start making an assumptions of what you do or don't do, I probably should ask permission to talk to you. And I'll give you an example how this happened. This happened to me recently. Some of you all might have known. In Coffee Tea, You and Me, we used to have, when we were live and then face-to-face, every once in a while, some Muslim ladies would show up. Some ladies who are Islamic would show up. Hijab and all that good stuff, right? You know, I was very, very excited to see them. And I realized, and I didn't realize, but I kind of knew that they felt kind of shy and kind of like, I'm not sure if this environment is good for me. I'm not sure if it's the right place, but I do have a business and I want to make sure that I'm talking to people and I'm meeting new people and so on and so forth. So I could see the angst in them. And no matter how warm and welcoming we were from our perspective, I could still see that angst in them. So they stopped coming, and it came for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they stopped coming. And I found one of them later on in a local shop, and I asked her the question. I said, you know, one, why did you stop coming? And she says, well, you know, I really couldn't get there on time. I was like, so what was going on, and what made that happen? She said, okay, well, to be honest with you, I don't like to come in the beginning of the networking function because that's when people are greeting each other and tugging and talking and touching, and that's not what we do culturally. Women and men do not touch that are not part of their family. They just don't. And they don't really touch even in parts of the family. It's just not, it doesn't happen. And so it's sort of culturally off-putting for us. And it's also difficult for us to say, I can't shake your hand, because that's how you want to be greeted. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh my God, here we are thinking we're warm and we're welcoming and we're inviting and we're friendly and we're open, but really we were culturally insensitive. And I said, you know, thank you so much for sharing this with me. And I really appreciate that you did. That's great feedback, right? But if you don't mind me asking, what is the appropriate way to greet you? What would you like to have happen? And she said, traditionally, when Muslims meet each other, when Muslims meet anybody, the traditional greeting, it's no touching. You look, you acknowledge the person, and you say, Alaikum salam. I knew that, but I didn't. It's been 30 years since I really met somebody from Islamic cultures and really interacted with them. And I just had forgotten, because I would have done that and I would have helped to share with the rest of the team, this is the appropriate way to greet someone from Islamic cultures. And they will say to you, you know, you say, Alaikum salam, they say, wa alaikum salam. Something like that. I forget now. Now I'm forgetting that totally. But it's very, very important that you understand these little sensitivities that we take for granted. When you give somebody a business card in certain cultures, if you just throw them your business card and they collect their business card, and you don't take the time to hold it, both hands, and look at it and acknowledge that you understand what you're seeing, it's a sign of disrespect for them and their culture. And again, these little self-management tools, right, would create emotional hijack, right? So now you got people who are now, they're not knowing how to fit in. They're not knowing how to move through this culture, and they're feeling put upon. It could cause them emotional hijack. It could cause them to feel out of control with themselves and feel like, even if they're not having an outburst, they're having what I call the inburst. So they now they can't speak up for themselves, and they can't talk effectively, and the things that they're sharing are not really meaningful anymore because they're just feeling bad about themselves and feeling bad about the opportunity, like they wasted their time or messed up somehow, some way, and they're in the wrong, and it's damaging to the self-concept, the self-esteem, all that kind of good stuff, right? So it's very important that you understand that from a self-management point of view, everybody doesn't think like you, everybody doesn't believe like you, and you're going to have to exercise a little patience when you bump into someone who is not like you. And it's better to be patient and careful than to plod through like you're stomping in the woods going, I don't care what your culture is. I don't care what you're thinking. I don't care what's going on with you. I don't mean any harm. And so I'm just being me, right? That attitude is not healthy for anybody involved, and I think a lot of times people do that and they think, thank you, Nancy. I knew you'd come up with the goods. It's not healthy. And I think it's very, very important that you avoid things that, or learn how to manage situations where you're going to feel like you got to defend yourself. Because you literally don't. There is nothing. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to defend your culture. You don't have to defend your organization. You don't have to. You may want to because you feel misunderstood or you feel incorrect or you feel whatever that is. And I get that. But again, those are emotions. Those are not real actions that are going to allow you to move the relationship forward. So you have to figure out how to manage those emotions so that you can still move forward and see the greatness and the joy and the happiness and the potential in others without your own baggage of what you think is right, wrong, or cultured or not cultured or whatever that is. That's the breakthrough that I think a lot of Americans need to have. And I'm going to say this one last thing, I'm going to move on. Americans and Western societies of all types, including the UK, obviously, really promote the culture of me. They really promote the self-actualized, self-identified, self-motivated, self-moving, selfish individual achievements and behaviors. And that is not useful in terms of working with others, because in working with others, you have to find ways to become a part of the team. You have to find ways to blend in and not either stand out or be isolated by the group. We'll talk about this a little bit more in social when we get to social skills. But it's very, very important that if you don't know how to fit in, but you're trying to fit in anyway, you're creating a stress and a pressure on yourself and on others. And until you sit back and take a scope of things and improve your abilities to control your own feelings and calmly discuss things you may disagree with, and avoid the activities that undermine your self-concept. Because if you're feeling like your self-concept is assaulted all the time by a group or a team or a person, I will say that's extremely difficult, and it requires more than emotional intelligence to make it through. That requires sacrifice and grace. And that is of a higher order than most of us can come up with consistently by ourselves. There's a spiritual component that we need to be able to call on when we can't come up with the goods ourselves. When we seek towards another or higher level of perfection or execution that's outside of our own abilities, then we can call upon some new things and some ideas that maybe we're going to need to use when we're feeling put upon, when we're feeling undermined or whatever that is. Because another, emotional intelligence skill is the ability to forgive and the ability to not allow whatever is going on around us to take us off our purpose, take our eye off the ball, right? Critically important. Next level of emotional intelligence, or next segment of emotional intelligence, is motivation. I love this segment. When we talk motivation, when I talk motivation to my clients, I'm never talking about achievement. That's the stuff that's easy to measure. I'm always talking about the steps along the way that you have to take to consistently and continually achieve towards your vision, to identify and maintain your mission, to assess and then make sure that you keep in front of you your goals, and to have a consistent daily, weekly, monthly march forward towards those things, right? Your ability to move in the direction of your choosing that's aligned with your purpose and your skills and abilities is what I think you need to have in order to be motivated consistently. And it has to be something, it's a construct from within. It can't be because I want money, I want power, I want control, I want, success as defined by those kinds of trappings. I'm going to get that bonus. It has to be something of a higher order. And what I mean by that is you have to be motivated to do it because you love it, because you're passionate about it, because whatever you're doing is important to you as a fulfillment of who you are, the highest part of yourself. Oprah would say, we're all in the process of being greater today than we were yesterday, and greater tomorrow than we were today. And so what is the thing that you love? What is the thing that drives you? What is the thing that you're passionate about on purpose that helps you feel a sense of relevance, significance, and meaning today? And you know it's going to help you feel that way tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And that is a driver. That is a motivation. That's the kind of motivation that Danny Goleman is talking about when he's talking about motivation in the perspective of emotional intelligence. So think about what you can do for someone else whose internal drives and beliefs and understandings you are in line with. What could you do together when you've been able to share your thoughts, abilities, and talents and gifts and wisdom and passions, and they've been able to do the same, and you've been able to recognize that, wait a minute, you need this over here. I got a friend, or I can help you with this, and you can help me with something else. Because there's two things we do with strengths and weaknesses. Either we improve upon the weaknesses or we ignore them, or we improve upon the strengths or we take them for granted. And that those interplays between our gifts and talents and our strengths and weaknesses and challenges are really about how we do life, how we do our abilities to move forward in this thing called life. And there's all kinds of processes we could teach you and all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is, the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more you are understanding your drivers. You're understanding the things that motivate you and what move you in a certain direction. My family is number one for me. If anybody in my family needs something and I'm aware of it, I take it as a point of personal pride and privilege to be able to do something about that. Either I can deliver it myself, or I can find somebody else who could deliver it to them, because I don't want whatever angst that comes along with that unfulfilled need to happen to anybody in my family. And if I can do anything to help that, I'm relevant, I'm significant, I'm meaningful. You get how that works? So think about it. When you're meeting people, when you're working with people, and you understand their drivers, and you understand their desires, and you understand their needs, and you're in a situation where you can help them fulfill it, and they're in a situation that can help you fulfill yours. This is how you can create relationship harmony, balance, success, real success, not the success that's going to get you a pat on the back and attaboy necessarily, but the success that's going to make you feel like you matter, right? That's critical to emotional intelligence, is being able to know you matter and know how to help yourself, or how to put yourself in situations where you actually do matter greatly, right? There's nothing better. There's nothing better than knowing for a fact that you matter. You can prove it by how others are responding to you, how others are reflecting back to you how significant and how special you are, or whatever it is that they do. And they're not just giving lip service. It's authentic and it's real, and you know it. That is when you've got something special. You're not guessing. You got something special. It's described in one of my favorite books. I can't remember the name of the book. It's the Mojo Quadrant. Yeah. I know what it is. It was. It'll come to me in a second. But one of my favorite coaches describes this in his book called the Mojo Quadrant, where you are in that mindset, in that ability, in that where you got your sort of mojo working, right? Everything's working well. You can do it forever. That's real motivation. That's how you know you've hit that vein. Like time goes away when you're in the Mojo Quadrant. There's no relevance to anything except what you're doing. You're so into it. You can forget to eat. You can forget to sleep. You can forget to do anything else, because whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, is so powerful. You just don't want to leave it. You just don't want to let it go. And people who are experiencing work cultures and organizations that function like that, man, they're just giving their best, and they do their best, and collectively, the company is always on a better side of it. You can't control market forces outside of your control, but the things inside your control, you can do so much more if you learn how to motivate yourself, how to motivate others, how to have them experience that drive and that internal wisdom and that mojo. Get that mojo working to the best of your ability. Okay, talked about motivation. Now we got to talk about empathy. Empathy is a skill of practicing and reading the emotions of others and giving them the opportunity, or having the opportunity, to then help them with those emotions. Really, 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 really important. And thank you for that feedback, Ben. I really appreciate it. You're right. It's the best feeling in the world when you got that mojo working, being in flow, right? That's very important. Miguel McShitmihai, I can't even pronounce that name, wrote about flow state. And he's a wonderful author. If anybody can look him up real quick and post him in the chat, that'd be great. But flow is a construct of his own that he came up with, and it helps, move. And in fact, they talked about it in Mojo Quadrant. And so it's just very, very important. Flow state is a critically important aspect of emotional intelligence, and it helps you to move yourself forward, help you to move others forward, be able to understand and recognize. You don't disturb somebody when they're in flow. No, because you're wrecking probably the best feelings they can have right now, and you want to let them have it. You want to get in flow with them so that you can trade off. The mirror effect will work, but that's a whole different discussion. Okay, let's talk about empathy. A little bit about empathy. We kind of tiptoed into when you come into that situation when you can help others control their negative emotions and move them more into positive emotions, and you could control your positive emotions, your negative emotions, and move into positive emotions. You could do so together. Then you really, really got a lock on what empathy can do when you understand it. You really can help others, and we do have what we call a mirroring effect with human beings. It's like we're tethered to each other, like a Wi-Fi brain to brain with individuals. If you're positive and upbeat, and I'm positive and upbeat, then we're going to have a greater experience than if one of us is downtrodden and oppressed and the other one trying to be positive and upbeat. It's like the depressed one's going to be like, oh, can't you see I'm miserable, I'm suffering, what's going on, how are you, you're not helping me. And then the person that's positive is like, can't you see that the glass is half full, it's not half empty, get off your high, off your out of the doldrums and just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? And get out of it, get on with it, my friend. Guess what? It's easier said than done. And if you're really empathetic with the person who is not doing well, then you figure out their triggers and you figure out what helps them, what they need to do to begin to work with you to have them come out of it, have them move themselves forward. You have to be strong, though. You can't be emotionally weak and try to deal with somebody who's also emotionally weak to try to help them. You're not. You're adding to the dysfunction. I'm gonna let you sit on that for a second. You're adding to the dysfunction. You come into a relationship with somebody who is emotionally damaged, who is emotionally has been traumatized, has been, are feeling, like I said earlier, so low for so long. You come in with your happy dappy dippity skippity whoop-a-doo-doo, life is good, da 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 da. You're not gonna help them because you're gonna say, because the level of control you have over your self-concept and your emotional feelings and so on and so forth is at a high level. And all you're going to create with them is resentment. Because one, they ain't going to believe you talking anything relevant. They're going to believe you're lying, or you're not really as happy as you say you are. They're going to look for ways to poke holes in your game. And two, because that's what they become really good at, right? And two, you're going to be feeling assaulted by them because they don't seem to get how wonderful life is and how great it is. So exercises that you might do to help yourself recover when you deal with a negative person is really go back to self-awareness, remember who you are. Look at your journals, look at your handbooks, whatever it is, whatever grounds you, your personal constitution, your vision statement, whatever it is that keeps you, that can help you correct and move back into again, control of yourself, because negative people, man, they can take you there. They can really take you there and allow you to do things that you're not going to be proud of with yourself. You're not going to let you think thoughts for yourself that you're not going to be proud of, and you want to avoid that at all costs. Okay, I see we got a lot of people here today, and if you have a business, or if you want to just tell us who you are, put your name or your information in the chat, where you're from. All that kind of stuff, maybe how we know each other. That'd be great if we know each other at all. How you found us. Be great information to know too. So having said that, the last area of emotional intelligence we got to talk about is the social skills. Now, all of the 4 areas we've just talked about lead you right into this. Your ability to work with others. Help them create an atmosphere that's safe for them to be the best them that they can be, is of the highest level of social skill. When you're able to work with people and make them feel so good about themselves, they are willing to take more risks in the area of their strengths than they would have taken in the past, or they're willing to do more to fix and work through any type of weaknesses or dysfunction that they have, because they feel encouraged and moved to do so by the communication, the environment, the atmosphere that you're able to help them experience through your level of feedback and consistency and caring and connection and commitment, right? All those things allow you to help others see the greatness in themselves and feel comfortable moving themselves forward. Now, if on top of that, you can also render some support, meaning you can offer them time, talent, or treasure And I'm not talking about making a deep sacrifice of your own to help someone else. I'm talking about the extra stuff, that you got laying around, right? The talent that you could just do whatever. It would be easy for you. Then find some people who really need it, could really appreciate it, and do it for them. Give it to them. Share it with them. I promise you, you're gonna find a way to find appreciation and love and an outpouring of thanks that you couldn't imagine. But again, you have to go back to that first element, right? You have to be emotionally aware of what you have to give, right? You have to be aware of who needs it. Even more so than what you have to give, you have to be identify who needs it, because if you're offering something that you think is valuable, but others don't really appreciate, don't know how to appreciate, you giving it to them is going to cause a level of dysfunction on the emotional realm. But if I need something, even if I don't know I need it, but you're able to show me that I do need it and then give it to me, you're a hero. You're a hero in my book. And I think that's the case with all human beings, because we don't all walk around aware of all of our needs all the time. Sometimes we have needs that other people discover through the process of discovering who we are, to asking questions, to making inquiries about what we do, what we like, would this be the experience, and so on and so forth. I remember once complaining, this happened, Nancy can back me up on this. I was complaining about my back and how it was a constant source of pain, and I was going to think about getting into a surgery and so on and so forth. I didn't know what I needed to do. And Nancy said, I think I may have a solution for you. Are you interested? And I said, well, sure. Well, I trust Nancy. Again, we already had an established relationship and a level of trust. And I said, okay, Nancy, what are you talking about? She goes, I got this little machine, and it'll help you if you just try it out. And if you like it, we'll get you one. If not, don't worry about it. Just give it back to me. I want you to try it out. And she gave me this little machine. And little machine, I put my little feet up my feet up in sort of the stirrups of the machine, and it shaked like that, right? And there's research about this, all about how you that I read, because I don't really like to put myself on machines and stuff I don't quite understand. So I did the deep dive into the research about how the body reacts to stress and what it does and how do you loosen it up and all that kind of good stuff. And man, that thing made me feel so good. I was like, oh God, where have it been all my life? I can stay on it for hours, but they don't advise you to do that, right? You got to do it in sessions. But it's like a little fish thing, and it makes your body shake and wiggle and just kind of helps you with your alignment and your all that kind of good stuff. And I usually I think, well, that's a bunch of hoopla, that doesn't work, but it does. And it's literally there's a song that I'm gonna share with you that I even shouldn't know, because I'm not old enough to know this song, but Nancy is. It's Good Vibrations. Really, it is. It's Good Vibrations. And that tool that she's talking about, and Nancy, if you could put that tool in the chat, that would be really amazing, because it really is helpful. It really is really, really good, and you get some good vibrations. If you're old fart like me and you just need to get your chakras aligned back up and feeling good again, you need them good vibrations. It's very, very good. And so I thank you for that. But how all that happened was I was sharing what I was experiencing to someone who had enough empathy to go, I see you. I got you. And because of the trust, I was allowed she changed my environment. She really changed my environment by sharing something of what she knew. And it meant so much to me. I'll never forget it. And so if Nancy asks me for something, it's done. It's done. Right? Because she didn't go, well, I normally charge people for this thing, and you really could I can help you, but I'm not going to help you unless you get in your pocket. Unless I can get in your pocket and get all your money, we can't talk about this. And the fact, well, if you want to sell it for me, maybe I'll let you consider borrowing it. You kind of think, no, that's how she approached it, and it makes all the difference because she approached it in a level of integrity and friendship, and I can respect that. And I want to make sure that I'm going to put that. Here's what it is. It's the chi machine, right? I say the energy. What did I say? I said I forget what I said, but it's important. Then this kind of, and I use this as an example to show you what social skills are important, because there's really literally, when you think about it, nothing that you're trying to do in life that someone else hasn't already figured out. Someone else hasn't already experienced. Someone else can't give you feedback, can't give you an opportunity. And when you're trying to put together an advisory council or board for your business, you're trying to put together relationships for coaching, mentoring, therapy, consulting, advising, whatever you're trying to do with people, your social skills are either limiting your abilities because they're not good, or they're increasing your abilities because they are good. And the better you learn how to, again, share who you are, what you have to give, specifically to the right people at the right time, then you're able to then move through life more successful, and people are able to work with you more successfully. Nothing is worse than someone keep coming at you with an idea or a concept that's not good for you, but they're convinced that it is good for you. And they're not listening to you when you say, no, I'm not interested. I'm going in this direction. That seems to be going in that direction, and I don't want to go in that direction. So no, not now, not ever with you, because you're now annoying me. You're now creating a distraction from the goals that I have in front of me. You're creating an energy around me that's negative instead of positive. You don't know the direction I'm moving in, and so, but you don't care because you're trying to get me to move in this other direction that I'm not moving in. It would be better if you took a moment to recognize what direction I was moving in, what I was doing, and then said, I got some friends that can help you get there faster. I got some things and some ideas that can help you move that better. Now I'm open to that because that's in alignment with where I'm going. People who have good social skills are able to determine and understand, where does this person want to go? How fast do they want to go? What do they want to do about this need, this desire? And before you make an offer, and this is key, this goes back to sales 101, right? If you don't know how to do this and you're trying to sell something, you're missing the boat. If you make a pitch to someone and you don't know they want it, you don't know they need it, and you don't know how or when they will afford it, you should never make that pitch. Because you run the risk, especially if somebody you're going to run into or know, you run the risk of offending them. They're not necessarily going to tell you because they don't know how to tell you. They don't know you like that. And so you'll continue to try because they'll give you some indicators that they might be interested at some point in the future when they're not really. And that'll put you on the hook to follow up and drive forward and all that kind of stuff, when really they were just trying to be nice and not let you down. But they don't have enough relationship to tell you that's kind of out of alignment with where I'm going. They don't have the emotional maturity to say, I'm really interested in things that are more in this direction. And so if you know anybody or anything that's helping me move in that direction, I really would be interested in learning more about that or hearing more about that. But I can't see how this thing over here is helping me do that. And so respectfully, lovingly, I'm going to say that this is where I'm going. I'm going in this direction. And if you're thinking about something that's going to help me with that, let's talk. I think that's the best you can do. I think it's the best you can do when you, again, are secure in your own forward movement, whatever that is. And it will help you to find security in others and find safety in others the more you can articulate Here's where I'm going. Here's why I'm going. Here's what I'm planning on doing as a result of me going. Here's how here's how I'm gonna work through every day, every week, every month to get there. Here's my plan. Here's my strategy. I'm gonna use these techniques. I'm gonna use these concepts because I'm gonna go here and for these reasons. The more you can know those things, articulate those things, share those things with the right people, the faster you're going to be successful. In fact, studies show that people who know what their knowledge and gifts and skills are and are able to articulate those things with the right people at the right time are 9 times, they grow through life and they're more successful 9 times faster than everybody else. That's a just think about you moving at a pace in life that's 9 times faster than everybody else. Not because you're just good at what you do, because the right people recognize that you're good at what you do and find ways to support you. And if you don't get that, networking is the most amazing skill you could possibly develop, and that understanding how social and emotional intelligence works to get you there, then I haven't done a good job today, and I apologize. I wasted all of your time. But if you're watching this and you're recording this, or you watching the replay of this, and you feel like, you know what, you need some help in certain areas, it would be my delight to help you. Tell me you saw the program, you watched it, you understood it, you read the article that was associated with these concepts and these ideas, and you're interested in doing more. I'd be happy to help you. You know, just make sure that you understand where I'm going, and take a minute to hear me out about what I'm doing and where I'm going. And guess what? We can grow together. Do I have any questions about anything we've discussed? Today's been a long session. I do apologize for that, but I think we had to get through a lot of material and a lot of discussion. And I have lots of tools and things like that you can use to discover a lot of parts and aspects of emotional intelligence and social networking and all these type of things. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, you know, just hit me up in the DMs. You know, what that means is write a message in the chat, or find me on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever that is, and you know, send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to respond, and we'll figure out what we can do to play together. You know, I'm the kind of person who, you know, if I love a great story. So if you got a great story you want to share with me, guess what? I'm probably going to love you too. So let's just make sure that we do everything we can to support each other in these COVID streets, as my daughter would say, because it's mean out there. And again, if there's anything that you have a question about or anything you want to hear about in the future, you know, definitely put that information in the chat, either now or later, and I will see what I can do to create a whole entire program about it. Because if you guys let me just think of this stuff on top of my head, you know, my friends are going to agree I'm going to come up with some good stuff, but I need to come up with better stuff. I need to stretch myself to do even more. So if there's something that you need to know more about, that you need to hear more about, and again, please share it. Don't be afraid, because, you know, we can't fix a problem that we don't know exists, and we can't help you with the issue that you won't cop to, and so to speak. You know, it's important, because as I talked to you earlier, you know, this social and emotional awareness is key to being able to move well through and around and with people. If you don't get this, then your growth is going to be retarded. That's it. So it's 1:28. We've been at this now an hour and 28 minutes, and I'm gonna hang around for a second. Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate both of you and Scott. You know, Scott says it was absolutely great, Marvin. Scott's a man of few words, but I know what he means, and I really appreciate you, Scott. Thank you so very much. And then Nancy says, you know, we love you, Marvin. So generous with his ideas. I really appreciate your passion there, and it means a lot to me. It really does. I'm thankful for all of you. I see Ben out there in the audience as well. Ben, I think I said this already, but he said he's been in flow all week. I love that picture of you, Ben. Um, that's great. That's really great. I have lots of good friends, lots of good people that I work with on a consistent, continual basis, and I try to make sure that my services are priced to move, so people don't have a problem with that. But I'm very selective because for me, it's about winning. When I bring on new clients and bring on new people into my world, it's all about winning. If I can't help you win, and for whatever reason, then I don't want to play because I got a 100% winning track record, and I don't want that messed up. So that's the key for me. It's like, can we get a win here? That's what I want to know. If we can get a win, and I can see a way forward for us to get a win, let's go. If we can't, I'm like, you need to work with somebody who is gonna do a little bit differently. They're gonna assess the situation differently. They're gonna think differently. They can still be a coach because we're not all the same, but I'm the kind of person that's like I'm driven by helping people move forward, helping people grow, and that's how I define winning. So if you're not moving forward, if you're not growing, I don't want to play. You don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to get stuck in the past. I'm a moving forward kind of person. I tend to tell people in my coaching world all the time, it's like, okay, I will come to a moment when I recognize in our process that you are not moving forward for whatever reason, and it's probably because you are stuck dragging some baggage behind you that you probably should let go. And that's not my thing. I don't know can't teach you how to let go. That's a therapy thing. And if you can't figure that out, then we got to talk about, maybe we can release you from the coaching contract and move you to the therapist, because that's really what they're there for. They're there to keep you, to clean up the stuff from the past, to help you deal with that and help you, get back on the position where you can move forward. A coach is about moving forward generally. If you find a coach that's not about moving forward, I think you should put that person under suspect. That person, this person not trying to help you win. That person is trying to keep a client long enough to keep money coming in their pocket, really. And I think that's not a good way. But that's just, again, my value system, right? That's why I didn't buy a coaching franchise, because that gets me twisted up into somebody else's value system or some other kind of value system that I don't agree with necessarily, because then it becomes about profit, not about really growth and success. Okay, guys, I love you. It meant a lot that you're hanging out with me. I really miss, the times we could be able to share personally, face to face. But we're going to continue to move forward. And again, if you need any help, feel free to reach out to me. My information is scrolling through the screen. And if you haven't already subscribed to our Facebook channel or our YouTube channel, please do so. If you want to share this, I really appreciate it. I've put the whole entire program in the chat so you can see all the back episodes. I didn't count them, but I don't think I've missed a week. No, I missed 1 week since COVID started. And that was due to technical difficulty. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again next Friday. Ciao, over, and the coach is out. Bye-bye.